got a thing here from Asmongold about situation that's going on in the United Kingdom. Some of you may have seen the video and the photograph of a young girl brandishing a sword and an axe to defend herself and I think either a friend or a younger sister against sexual perverts that are running around in the form of migrants. And yeah, the girl's been arrested because God forbid you should actually defend yourself or defend the people that you love. UK's government has made it very clear that their own population is to be groomed and raped and violently murdered and basically wiped out and replaced with a more compliant underclass, or at least one that they think they can keep in check, which is all of these migrants and people coming from God only knows where, and they basically just want to replace the native population. So anyways, Britain needs mass deportations.
I think that he's right. I do think that mass deportations are coming. I think that he's right. I do think that we are on the track for mass deportations. I don't even think it's going to take that long either.
Things are heating up in Britain, and honestly, I think it's going to come to a head at some point when someone on the other side does something terrible. Because I think that's really where this is going. I mean, as you can see, the flag campaign is still going very strong. It's being called contentious.
Those of you who don't know, there's a thing called Raise the Colours that's going on in England, where people are raising the flag of England, the flag of St. George, and it is infuriating leftists and people in the urbanite upper classes. They're trying to cast this as some sort of flag of racism and right-wing extremism when it's nothing of the sort. It's people expressing patriotic pride in the nation. People just basically saying, look, this is our country. It doesn't belong to these migrants and these invaders that are coming over. Britain belongs to the Britons. Britain belongs to the British. England belongs to the English. Scotland for the Scottish. And they're trying to make that into something controversial when nothing could be further from the truth. There's nothing controversial about that. England is for the English. Scotland is for the Scottish. Wales is for the Welsh. Ireland for the Irish. And they are raising up the flags in public places, even painting them on zebra crossings and in other places. And you've got town councils and just all the usual fourth columnists and enemies within that are falling all over themselves, spending all this money and rapidly responding to try and whitewash and get rid of these displays of the St. George's flag. Meanwhile, people can't get their rubbish picked up on trash day and other services they're sometimes waiting days, weeks, even months for. But oh my God, we will pop right round and arrest young girls for trying to defend themselves against nonces and rapists. And oh my gosh, we're going to tear down St. George's flags and arrest people that are trying to put them up. Plenty of resources for that, but oh no, sorry, no resources to fight the stabbists in London, or the bike thieves, or the people stealing cell phones from other people, or fighting against pickpockets and bag thieves. No, sorry, cupboards are bare. Don't have any resources for that. You're on your own. Not going to do anything about petty crimes and shoplifters. No, just let the shoplifters go into Tesco and let them take whatever they want. Police aren't going to do a damn thing about that. But by God, if a Tesco employee tries to stop a shoplifter from leaving, that Tesco employee is going to get arrested. This is the absolute state of Britain right now, and makes me very grateful that I live in exile here in America, where I can at least talk about these things and not worry about getting a knock on the door from police wanting to talk to me about how I've committed some sort of non-crime hate incident just because I dare to notice that things are pretty fucked up in Britannia right now.
By the mayor of Manchester, Greater Manchester.
What a surprise.
Which is great. And then, of course, we had this video of the two sisters going around. The one
we saw this
with
yesterday.
the knife and the axe. Being
Skyrim.
the younger one who the older sister is trying to protect from an immigrant who is filming and harassing her. Now,
yeah, and apparently there's reports coming out that particular immigrant is not from North Africa, not from the Middle East, not from India. Turns out they're a gypsy from, I guess, Bulgaria or someplace like that. I don't know. Got a strange name. I think the middle name is Ali. So possibly some sort of Middle Eastern connection, but from what we're hearing, no, they're Roma gypsy, which is still just as bad because that sort of human trafficking goes on in the gypsy community all the time.
Basil here is right to point out that you hear the fear in their voices.
Well, I love and the thing is, what I found to be so funny about this is that the cops tried to turn this into the girls were harassing the immigrant. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody yells at me and tells me to leave and they pull out an axe and a knife, I'm going to turn around and leave.
Yeah, most of us normal people would. We're not going to whip out our mobiles and start filming. We're just going to get the fuck out. We are going to fuck off. Someone brandishes an axe and a large knife. We are going to fuck off fairly quickly. Especially if we're not carrying anything like that in response. If we're not say, equipped with a sidearm of some kind, then we might not fuck off. But most people, especially in that part of Britain, again, you're talking strict gun control. Most people do not have firearms. Normal people are they're just going to fuck off. But this particular nonce whipped out his mobile and started filming because he knew damn well that the law was going to be on his side and was going to protect him because he knew how the system works.
Like that's so. Why is he even there? Doesn't that sound interesting? Like, yeah, wouldn't you just immediately get the fuck out of there?
By the way, major props to Asman for sort of setting up the camera just so. They probably didn't mean to do that, but there's just enough room here to where I don't have to move my model, and I can looks like I'm sitting right next to Asman. Pretty cool.
Quickly too, yeah, exactly. But instead, he's harassing them and filming them. Yeah, I wonder why.
I'm not sure how exactly to put this, but this is evidently not the first time that this has happened to these girls.
Probably not.
They didn't choose one day to go out.
If you've got one girl in particular brandishing an axe and a large knife, a large blade, chances are these things have happened a lot of times, and these girls are fucking terrified. And you can tell she's terrified. But she's also a brave young thing for standing up like that. I don't give a fuck what the police say. She's done nothing wrong, and she didn't deserve to get arrested. And as Basil the Great is saying here, it is enough to make you sick. Because this is the sort of occupied, degenerate, fallen society that Britain has become. And I hate it. I hate that this is what my country has become. The land of my ancestors. I mean, it's a tired old trope and it's almost become cringe these days, but this is not what the older generations fought in the war for. This is not what they fought against the Nazis. They did not fight against the Nazis just to have this sort of behavior, just to have these sorts of policies, and this absolutely sickening treatment of young girls. I mean, it's enough for a lot of them to just say, we fought on the wrong side. If this is what it has come to after all this time, it's like they fought for nothing. I'm freezing right now. I'm wearing a heated blanket. Why is my body a walking winter? This is why I sleep with 17 blankets on my bed anyways. Moving to Texas, end of discussion. I mean, it might not be much better in Texas, though the winters are certainly milder by comparison.
Armed and then happened to coincidentally bump into a migrant who was
Oh, she's harassing him. Then why are you walking towards her?
Yeah. Why are you walking towards her, mate?
Why would you be walking towards a person with a knife and an axe if all you wanted to do is to have them leave you alone? Really, like, I mean, imagine, like, think about the level of cognitive dissonance that you have to have in order to believe the police whenever they are actively trying to lie to you. It's unreal. And Reddit was even going, well, it's obvious Reddit was going along with this.
Of course.
Streets.
Because that's what Redditors do.
This happened before, God only knows what's happened to them before, which is why they felt the need to arm themselves. So I'm not surprised that they sound terrified, frankly.
Yeah, I wonder why.
And yes, she was, of course, arrested for brandishing dangerous weapons. But, of course, the migrants are just fed to the wolves, as Charmaine.
Call me Shari. This 14-year-old girl was arrested in Dundee, Scotland for protecting herself and her friend from a migrant who wanted to assault them. Read that again. She was the one arrested because she protected herself against an assailant. In Scotland, you have some serious house cleaning to do. You either allow innocent girls to be fed to the wolves and forced to defend themselves against migrant rapists, or you, the men of Scotland, stand up and say enough is enough and take your country back.
And this was in Scotland as well. This wasn't even in England. But this is just the reality of being...
I guess they have to ban axes, guys. The only solution to this is ban axes. We have an axe violence problem in Britain or Scotland, and so we have to get rid of all axes. And
yeah, they're already doing knife control. They've already got strict gun control laws in Britain. They're already doing knife control. Axe control is next. Because God forbid we actually do anything about the problem of fighting-age men from foreign countries coming in, occupying whole swaths of the countryside, and crowding out the native population in the capital city of London. God forbid we should do anything about that. No, let's just make them the new replacement underclass. And let's wipe out the native white population, because we don't like them anymore. Because it's now acceptable to be racist towards white people. Let's just genocide all of them out of existence, and we'll replace it with a brown underclass. Surely that'll fix everything.
And then this issue should go away.
Britain, and in fact, Europe more broadly, but I'll cover that again tomorrow on the podcast. The authorities are here to make sure you are under control. They don't really see the new arrivals as being under their legitimate authority. They've got their own customs, they've got their own ways.
Yeah.
They have a different way of looking at the world, and you are a racist. So you are the one who's policed, because you, is expected, will cooperate with the police. And this really does just hammer home the point, doesn't it?
When daughters need to arm themselves against new arrivals on the streets, how much longer can liberals pretend multiculturalism is working? That's just it, it's not. Multiculturalism is a complete and total abject failure. And it was designed to be a failure from the beginning. It was never going to work. And I think it's time we stop lying to ourselves about it working. I think I need 3 more blankets. That's why I learned to defend myself when I did wrestling in high school. Yeah, whatever it takes. It's also like that old saying goes, God made Adam and Eve, but Samuel Colt made them equal. I am all for women learning how to use firearms for their own personal protection. Believe me, if the young women of England and Scotland and Wales, if more of them were able to, had the training on how to safely use a firearm, the entire country would be a much safer place. I know that's not a popular viewpoint in the UK, but it's true. And you want to know how I know? Because it is a truism here in America. In places where you have a greater proliferation of firearms ownership, those places tend to be generally safer. It defies the so-called conventional urban monoculture and left-wing liberal logic, whatever that may be. But it's true. People thought when Texas passed open carry that the whole entire state was just going to be a combination of Dodge City and daily gunfights at the OK Corral. Nothing could be further from the truth. Life went on as normal, and if anything, certain parts of Texas became safer, because law-abiding citizens had easier access to firearms. But that doesn't fit certain narratives, so that doesn't get talked about.
It's insane.
When daughters need to arm themselves against new arrivals on the streets, how much longer can liberals pretend multiculturalism is working? And moreover...
It's not even multiculturalism. Like, I mean, again, there's plenty of people that probably live there that are from different cultures that aren't going...
But it is multiculturalism. It's a forced experiment in multiculturalism that has completely and totally failed. The British government, in its infinite wisdom, decided to bring in a bunch of savages from third world shitholes in the belief of some sort of magic dirt theory that once they got here, they would just magically become civilized doctors, lawyers, accountants, and engineers. And that hasn't happened. Most, if not all, of these migrants have been complete leeches and net drains on the entire system. It hasn't worked, and so we need mass deportations.
around harassing girls like this. That's the problem. And I think this is what's happening, is that basically any sort of logical, rational discussion around, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to import a bunch of these people from this other country that speak another language, come from a totally different culture, and we're not really vetting them properly. Any sort of conversation in that direction was totally shut down as racism. It was totally shut down as racism, and nobody wanted to hear it. And I think the result of that is that now you have people that are reacting in the opposite way. They're saying any multiculturalism is bad. We don't want any of these people here because, again, when you make reasonable conversation impossible, you make unreasonable conversation inevitable. And that's what's happened here, is that they have shut down any sort of reasonable or measured approach to dealing with this problem. And because of that, you have situations like this girl with the knife.
Is there a limit to the number of children
that's what's happening
to sacrifice to their ideals? And the answer to that, you and I both know, is that no, there is no limit. There is literally no limit to the number of dead or raped children that the liberal will say, you know what, maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe actually
they'll never admit they were wrong.
Well, the reason why is...
They'll never admit they're wrong. So you just have to overthrow them. You just have to remove them from power by any means necessary. They're not going to go willingly. You're not going to be able to vote your way out of this. Only an overthrow is going to solve this problem at this point. That's what it's come to. There is no democratic solution to any of this. It is going to take sweeping, broad emergency powers, and it is going to take strong men getting into power by any means necessary to try and right the ship. Because otherwise the entire bloody thing is going to collapse. And the globalists are hoping that they can collapse it into some sort of one-world government. I don't see how they're going to do that, because the systems aren't in place. At least not that we can tell, anyway. And maybe they don't even want that. Maybe they just want the civil unrest. Maybe they really do just want to rule over a rubble pile that was once Great Britain. I don't even know anymore.
It's because they don't care about the kids. They care about pushing forward ideas that make them feel good.
Yeah.
There's the idea that there's like a good intention behind this is a lie.
No, there's always a wicked intent.
It's a very clear intentional behavior. It's again pathological performative narcissism. So I'm gonna just read this person's comments. Not giving this guy a presumption of innocence is complete racism. This guy and his wife are leaving a store and a group of girls targeted him with weapons. Why would you follow a 12-year-old girl that tells you to leave her alone with knives and axes? Would you do that? He was filming the weapons for evidence. Why was he getting so close?
Also, he doesn't deserve a presumption of innocence. That's something we reserve for our people, for natives to our tribe, for people that we know, not for strangers. Strangers, you naturally look at them with suspicion until you can assess whether they are friend or foe. This is the sort of thing that people talk about when they refer to suicidal empathy. This tying yourself in knots and bending over backwards for complete and total strangers. And what's that gotten Britain? What's that gotten us lately? It's gotten us this. It's gotten us young preteen girls having to walk around with large knives and axes to defend themselves against third world nonces that are trying to kidnap them and take advantage of them sexually and abuse them, kidnap and traffic them, maybe even kill them. That's what your suicidal empathy has gotten you, Joe Gunn. That's the end result right there. Don't talk to me about fucking racism. Everyone's racist. Every single fucking person on this whole goddamn planet is racist to one degree or another. It's something that's inbuilt to all of us. It's instinctual. You have a tribe and a people that you are supposed to be loyal to. You are not some fucking world citizen, some sort of atomized individual that's part of some one world system. No, you are a person. You have a family. You have a clan. You have a race. You also have a land that you're tied to. And just because you've been forced to forget about all of that doesn't make any of it true, any of it less true. Just because you've been forced to forget about it doesn't make it any less true. It's like that Avenue Q song. Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. Doesn't mean we go around committing hate crimes. Everyone has in-group preference. Every other race and ethnicity in the world has an in-group preference. And yet somehow, it's only a problem when white Europeans, exercise that in-group preference, suddenly then it becomes a problem. Well, I'm done with people having a problem with it. I don't care if they have a problem with it. I'm going to exercise in-group preference for my people, because they are my people. You have a problem with it? Fuck off. I don't care anymore. It's not racist to have preferences like that. It's natural. It is the natural order of things. And I refuse to buy into the whole narrative that somehow I should hate myself because of my race, because of my skin color, because of my gender, because of my sexual orientation. I reject all of that. You say I should hate myself. I actively defy you and choose to love myself, to love my people. I will do it even if only to spite you, because I know it infuriates you so much. Because if nothing else, it's the one thing that you can't control in this world. And I know that must absolutely drive you mad. And I love driving you mad about that.
Close to them. Why were they walking away from him? Did you see the footage of them harassing and attacking this guy whenever he walked out of the store? Why do you think she had the weapons in the first place? The police reviewed all the CCNet and found that they approached him. Did you see it? Did you see the camera?
No, he didn't.
I trust the police in Scotland.
Your trust is misplaced.
Hasn't there been provable, verifiable evidence that they intentionally misreport the amount of rapes and violent crime that migrants do? I mean,
yes. They've been playing fast and loose with the numbers for years, under the guise of not wanting to inflame racial tensions. Racial tensions which they themselves created by bringing all of these people into Britain and into other Western European countries. Now they're even trying to do it in Japan. Because, hey, it's not enough that the white European is made to destroy themselves. Now we've got to do it with the Southeast Asians, because apparently they've had it too good for too long.
I hear this all the time in the UK. I'm sure it's also true in Scotland, too. Why would you trust them after they've been proven to lie about this topic in the past? Police to stop passing immigration status on crime victims, dealing with potential criminality, migrant walks free, news releases and statements. Let's see if we can find any more of these here. Prosecuting them as well. So why would you trust the police? This is very clearly a very large issue.
That's just it. If anything, this has shown that you can't trust the police. And I'll go ahead and say this now. I'm not endorsing this for obvious reasons and for legal reasons. But it is just a matter of time before violent clashes between the native British population, between the native population in England and Scotland, and the police. It's just a matter of time before we see violent clashes between the native population and the police. Again, for obvious and legal reasons, I don't endorse any of that, but given the direction things are going, it's inevitable. We will see it. We will see violent clashes with police. And who knows, we may actually see a police force that is totally overwhelmed and not able to stop the native population, during which case you might see troops being brought in to try and restore order. You may actually see the British Army firing upon civilians. I would not put it past the British government. If they can't do it with the police, they will send in the military, and they will order troops to fire upon civilians. I don't endorse any of that, for obvious reasons and for legal reasons, but I believe that is exactly where this is headed. The protests against the migrant hotels are peaceful for now, but if this keeps up, it's not going to stay peaceful. You will start seeing more and more violent protests, because nobody's listening to the native population anymore. These girls, they're viewed as lower class, especially by the upper class and urbanite populations. These girls are seen as trash. They're seen as deserving of their fate. They're seen as a bunch of miscreants and troublemakers who get what they fucking deserve. That's how the upper crust of British society views these poor girls. That is one thing I am so grateful to have gone native in terms of being in exile in America for so long, because I don't see these girls as being of a lower class than me. Mainly because I too come from a working class background. But I see countrymen first. Social class is way down there in terms of priorities for me. I see them as people first. We can talk about their social class later. The same can't be said for the upper crust of British society, and that is to their eternal shame. Action Bastard, hello, hello. Long time no see indeed. Back from the road. Good to see you. How you been? Ah, this story, yeah. Only a matter of time. Honestly, the fact it's happening now as opposed to 10 years ago. These things take time. These things take time, but it's slowly but surely bubbling up to the surface. And again, it is just a matter of time before violent clashes between the people and the police and eventually the military. I should hope that we've got some good blokes in the military that will disobey orders and will lower their weapons and say, no, we're not firing on civilians. We're not going to do that. And that's when you're really going to have some social unrest. When the troops on the ground refuse to follow orders, and who knows, even end up joining the people in their protest, because let's face it, a lot of those blokes come from the same sort of working class background, yeah, then you're going to have some real problems. I'd be exhausted, really long day today. I can imagine. But hey, it's the weekend. There's a 3-day weekend at that.
Why didn't they publish the data? Why didn't they show it happening? They could have blurred out the individuals and the women that were doing it. And so don't say it's for their safety or privacy, because it's a literal video of them right there.
No, it's inconvenient to the narrative.
Publicly. You're actually going to trust the government after these girls are intentionally trying to actively run away and walk away from this person. And also, by the way, let's use a little bit more logic here. If he was filming them for evidence that they had weapons, but he was coming out of a place that had a TV, then why would he film them if they were just being filmed inside of there with the TV for surveillance?
I think he's referring to CCTV. 2.5 for me because I'm off Monday, but I work Sunday. Hey, better than nothing, though. A little more extra than what you would have in a normal weekend, yeah?
I mean, how many levels of lies do you have to exist in before you just acknowledge the obvious truth? Yeah, for his protection. You can literally hear their fear. They scream, stay away. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like, so these girls, like, you actually, it's illogic. Yeah, there's no logic in any of this. That's the huge problem here. Have you seen how bad CCTV cameras are? Well, okay, so if you've seen how bad the CCTV cameras are, then how are the police able to come to this conclusion? I don't understand the thinking of any of these people. And I think the reason why is because there isn't any.
No, there isn't. It's just reactionary, swerving from one crisis to the next, desperately trying to keep a lid on this because they fear having race riots on the streets of Dundee, or Manchester, or Birmingham, or London. That's what they fear. They fear that the communities that are built up around these migrants will take to the streets and be violent. And they're some of the first people that would be violent, which would further invalidate the whole argument and philosophy for bringing those people here in the first place. They should never have been brought to Britain in the first place. They should have been turned right round at the airport and on the coast and just say, no, you have to go back. Don't care what sort of sub-story you have. We've got our own problems here. We're full up. You have to go back. And it's what needs to be said right now, is what more people are saying right now. You finally, at long last, have people like Rupert Lowe saying we need mass deportations. That we need to not only be looking at deporting anyone who is in Britain illegally, but we also need to start looking at the people who have arrived over the past few years and saying, you have to go back. We're full up. There's no room for you here. You're not contributing. Get out. As there's also past precedent for it. Oh yes, it's been done plenty of times, and it can be done again. It just takes the political will to do it. And right now, that political will in large part does not exist with a lot of MPs, and certainly doesn't exist within the halls of the civil service in Whitehall.
There isn't any thinking. You're just simply deferring to authority like a retard. Maybe he knew they wouldn't actually do anything. Well, that's exactly why he was pursuing them. Oh, I'm not going to... This is your... not always obvious for people with CCTV, is it? Yeah, of course, it's not always obvious, yeah. So the thing that they're not showing anybody actually showed that these two 12-year-old girls that are running away from a migrant, exasperated, trying to defend themselves with weapons, actually somehow they were the ones that antagonized him, and it's in fact the police that told you that have not released any evidence of it. Nobody has gotten in charge. Also, by the way, then if they're harassing this man, why wasn't the other girl why didn't she get in trouble too? So if only the girl that got arrested was for the weapons, isn't harassing people in public and attacking them, isn't this something that is against the law? So why didn't why didn't the other one get arrested?
It's supposed to be.
Just there's no logic with this. I can't imagine how many layers of stupidity you have to go through to actually believe such an obvious lie. You also don't have any evidence. Why can't you give any benefit of the doubt here? Because I'm looking at it.
Because benefit of the doubt in this case is tantamount to suicidal empathy. That's not what you're not asking for the benefit of the doubt. You're asking for people to exercise suicidal empathy. You are saying to people, let your defenses down so that we can destroy you. No, we're not going to do that. It is not in our best interest to do so.
No, I'm not going to defer to some vague, fucking, opaque government organization that has systematically, in Europe, this has systematically happened all over Europe, that they have intentionally tried to obfuscate migrant crime. This is undeniable that this has happened. For you to assume that
all of Europe has engaged in a failed experiment with magic dirt theory, thinking that if we take savages from shithole countries and put them in civilized European countries, that they will somehow magically become civilized and turn into doctors, lawyers, accountants, and engineers. And it hasn't happened. And it's never going to happen. Because there was no logic there. It was all flawed from the beginning. Meanwhile, Poland has been doing everything possible to keep their borders safe. Yeah, Poland and Hungary. Hungary in particular has put up, I think, a fence. They actually have a proper border wall. And Poland has looked at everyone else and rejected the EU's demand that they take in more migrants. They're like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And what do you know? Everything's safe. Everything's clean. Everything's orderly. Everything fucking functions. The trains actually get somewhere on time. Oh, you should see Poland's border wall. You got a picture of that? Actually, you know what? Let's look it up. Poland border wall. Let's see if we can find something in Google Images. Oh, hey! Fuck yeah! That's some good-looking stuff there. Oh, there's a proper wall. 186 kilometre. Shared with Belarus. You'd think Belarus would be a bit better about that sort of thing. Oh, that's not bad. That's impressive. Yeah, Belarus, get your shit together. Nice. Oh no, migrants with children stuck at Poland's border wall. Belarus won't let them turn back. Oh no. Anyway, not their fucking problem. I don't want to fucking hear about beatings and dog bites and barbed wire. I don't want to fucking hear about it. If you're not in a country legally, get the fuck out. I would say that about Poland, I'd say it about Belarus, I'd say it about Britain, I'd say it about the United States, I'd say it about anywhere. If you're in a country illegally, you're breaking the law. Simple as. And you either get right with the law and get in the proper way, or get the fuck out. Yeah, not our country, not our problem. And Poland has said the same thing. Oh, Belarus won't take us back. It's not a fucking problem, mate. You made your bed. Now lie in it. Yeah, that's a fucking cool-looking wall. That looks like a girl there off in the distance. And she looks like she has a very nice bottom. Anyway. Back to the video.
12 and 14-year-old girls were actually the aggressor against a random migrant as they are walking away from him, exasperated, trying to say, stay away from me, as he is following them. And you want to listen to the police whenever they say, oh no, they were the ones making him mad. You are out of your fucking mind. You have completely lost the plot.
Maybe actually, people from different places on the earth are actually different and actually not compatible. They will never...
By the way, Action, I do have to give you some major props here. It's thanks to you I started listening to Podcast Lotus Eaters and started watching Sagan videos again. I'd kind of written him off after he just behaved like a complete blithering idiot when he was running for office. Yeah, he's actually demonstrated growth, and he has changed, and he has actually matured into a right intelligent bloke. And Podcast Lotus Eaters has actually become one of my absolute must-listen-to podcasts, especially to get proper news about what's going on in the old homeland. So yeah, thank you for turning me back on to old Sargon here, Mr. Carl Benjamin. He's yeah, no, he's really upped his game, and he's grown and he's changed in good ways. And you know, for those of you who sort of cringe at the idea of taking anything that Sargon of Akkad says seriously, I would say, like I've said before, give him another chance, because the Sargon of Akkad of today is not the same as the Sargon of 5-10 years ago. We are dealing with a very different person, very changed man, and very much the product of a very changed Britain. And if you haven't, do subscribe to Podcast The Lotus Eaters. It is a very good podcast to listen to. Watch it online. They've also got merch, and they've also got a really good magazine they put out on, I think it's like a quarterly basis, something called Islander magazine. That's supposed to be really good, and they've actually become a bit of a collector's item. But yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Ever back down from. But you see this kind of mythologizing of this young lady going around, and this is lovely.
Does need to work on
this, and it is nice that
getting
our
a sharper
American
camera
friends are doing
angle.
this. But it is a damning indictment
It's
of what is
embarrassing.
happening in this
Yeah.
country.
Yeah,
And the AI art makes her look honestly braver than she was. It's not that she's not brave.
yeah, no, that poor girl was absolutely petrified when she was brandishing that blade and that axe. But standing up and doing the right thing is oftentimes quite scary, quite frightening, and so it's kind of normal to be nervous, to be scared when you do that. But in the end, what we now have is a part of mythos, and it has become a meme in the very best sense. To where now, yeah, you've got AI art of her brandishing weapons, and even with Scottish war paint on, and just pulling a modern day Braveheart. We need a statue of the new princess of the UK. You know, long after she's gone, long after a lot of us are gone, I think, she may very well get a statue. Somewhere in Dundee, or in a public square somewhere in Scotland, as a symbol of a renewed national pride. If and when we get the good ending, where we win, and we get our homelands back, and we've expelled the migrant menace, and we have removed root and stem, the sort of fourth or fifth column of these toxic globalists, and we have restored European countries back to their proper way, especially once we have proper Britain once again, yes, I think we may very well have a statue of the new princess of the UK, a new symbol of resistance and unity. Because that's what this girl has. Whether she wants it or not, she is now the face of resistance. And what you have here is a real case of lightning in a bottle, where this girl, raising up a blade and an axe, her image can ignite a revolution. It really can.
Obviously. But she's also terrified. She's also deeply afraid. And I saw people saying,
I've seen this exact situation with all white men and boys in Scotland. I'm sorry, but you're making sweeping assumptions. No, I'm not. It's obvious what's happening.
Yeah.
It's obvious what's happening to any reasonable person. Everybody knows what's happening. You're not. This is. You're not. This is not even worth discussing. If you're actually going to believe the police department on this, you're just everybody knows this.
Yeah, if you believe the police, you are an actual fucking retard. You are an actual fucking just subhuman IQ retard. You are a low IQ retard if you actually believe what the police are telling you.
That's why they won't show it.
Well, you know, women vote.
What a fucking retard.
Yeah.
For this. It's like, well, look, man, she's like 12.
Yeah.
She didn't vote for any of this. This has been done to her. And honestly, many of the victims of multiculturalism are in the same boat. These are people who are not people who chose to have this. They were way too young to make any choices, and they had it inflicted upon them. So anyway, we're in the position where this
Yeah. The UK right now, get raped or get arrested. Those are your choices. To which I would say, exercise the third option. Get out. That place isn't safe for you anymore.
Not even inaccurate. You can either defend yourself and get arrested, or you can leave yourself to the tender mercies of the imported rapists.
Mm-hmm.
And the government knows which side they're on.
They're on the side of, they're on the side of the rapists.
Yep. Then you get other people pointing out,
they will defend to their dying breath the rapists. And they will arrest anyone who dares to defend themselves against these just absolute nonsense.
The reason this photo resonates with people is because we are beginning to understand the physicality of the conflict.
Yes, we are under threat.
Abstractions
we're under
after
attack.
Years of deludedly believing we could vote our way out of this mess. Well, the thing is, it will still be voting that does actually resolve this in the end, to be honest.
Oh, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I'm very concerned that there's going to be some form of violence, because I think that things are getting very extreme. Like, you're starting to see these mass protests. You're starting to see tensions escalate between different groups of people. It seems very problematic, and I think that will be bad for everybody.
Problematic is putting it mildly.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But if people can't vote their way out of this, they will find other solutions instead.
And spoiler alert, there is no voting your way out of this. Labour and the Tories are both on the same side with this. In fact, it got even worse under the Tories. There's a reason that it's called the Boris Johnson wave of migrants, because he absolutely opened the floodgates. So it actually got even worse under the Tories. And if you think, well, I'm just going to vote reform, Nigel Farage will fix everything. No. Nigel Farage is having to be dragged kicking and screaming just to deportations, just to the idea of deporting people who are in the country illegally, and to the idea of deporting some migrants. That's what he's at right now. Because he's got a deputy named Azir Youssef, who is constantly in his ear saying, if we do anything to offend the Muslim population in Britain, we will lose. So he has already signed his soul and the soul of reform over to the Muslims, and will absolutely lick their boots every time, or in the case of Muslims, lick their sandals every time without fail. About the only person who is standing up and saying, we need mass deportations, was someone who was actually thrown out of reform. That's Rupert Lowe. And Restore Britain. They're the only ones that... He's the only one that's standing up and saying it. And more people need to be saying it. But unfortunately, courage and bravery is something in very, very, very short supply in the House of Commons.
Believe it or not, I know that a lot of people don't hear it, but we will end up voting a hard right government into power, and they will eventually denaturalize and deport millions of foreigners who are allowed to.
I wouldn't be too sure. I don't know. I'm really not convinced at this point, and I could be wrong, but I really don't see any sort of voting our way out of this. It's possible that what Carl's talking about here could end up coming to fruition. It is possible that, yes, they could vote in a hard right government that denaturalizes and deports a lot of people. You're still talking about a scenario that is going to need to be very hard fought. You are talking about institutions and courts and people in positions of power who will do anything, and I mean anything, to stop that from happening, right up to and including nullifying election results. Nullifying election results, using courts and lawfare to try and stop them, civil service that dogs them at every corner. They will do whatever they can to cheat to win. That is why we have to learn to cheat as well. We have got to use every dirty, underhanded trick in the book to try and win. Lord knows our enemies will. We've got to get good at that too. There is no high road to take here anymore. The exits and the overpasses for the high road, we passed those a long time ago. This is now a fight for survival. And that means you've got to fight dirty. There are no heroes in this war now. There's only fighters. And you're either going to fight to win, or you're just going to lay down and die.
Let's come here against our will. That's how this is going to end up going. There isn't going to be...
Somebody says, you actually think the UK government is concealed fascists who control the police and all media, silencing any people who are against them? I think that
that's
the
exactly
government
how it's shaken out now.
Intentionally trying to obfuscate the amount of migrant crime and migrant sexual assaults that happen in order to not make it look obvious where the problem is coming from. I think that's what they're doing. I mean, the rest of the stuff, I think that's all up for debate. But in this certain circumstance, I think that's absolutely what's happening. This is in the UK. Yeah, exactly. Must be retard today. Well, you'd be surprised how many people immediately, and this is what's so sad, is that people will immediately turn over their own eyes and ears to the deferential opinion of a police department with no level of evidence or accountability, and even
a badge and a gun does not constitute righteousness or correctness in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it makes you more suspect. At least that's a smart person would look at those people with suspicion. It's like, oh, you want me to take your word for it just because you got the badge and the gun? No. If anything, I'm going to scrutinize what you say and what you do even more, even harder. Yep, just look at the Canadian police during the truck protest. Yeah, there's a special layer of hell reserved for those people in the government. What they did to Canadian lorry drivers is absolutely unconscionable, and that is a special place in hell reserved for all of them.
Record of lying, but people care so much to listen to authority that they will just believe anything that they're told. And I actually don't think that's the entire truth. I think the reality is that people don't like this. People don't like the politics that are coming out of this. And because they don't like the politics that are coming out of this, they're actively trying to hang on to anything that would undermine this movement.
Well, you may not like the politics, but that's just too damn bad. The politics certainly likes and is interested in you. So you'd better learn to fight. Because the war's here. It's at your doorstep now. You may not be interested in politics. Politics is interested in you. So you damn well better learn how to play the game. And you damn well better learn how to play to win. Because Lord knows the other side is playing for keeps. They are playing to win. And you're not going to get anywhere by playing to just not lose.
That's the real reason why they're doing it. It's not, in some cases they're stupid, but it's the optics. Yeah, exactly.
Sort of race war as it is. There will be sectarian conflict, but it won't be directed by the states. It won't be something, or there won't be armies fighting over things. It won't be a civil war as we traditionally understand it. But eventually, a hard right government, democracy will limp along. Eventually, a hard right government will get into power with promises of just removing these people from our lands. And that's...
Ask me, you haven't been shown any evidence that an immigrant was harassing her. I just saw a video of an immigrant harassing her, walking after her constantly.
Yeah, it's from the first-person perspective of an immigrant harassing her. And this has apparently happened before. Otherwise, why would she be brandishing these weapons?
If somebody tells you to leave, if somebody says, leave me alone, and you keep following them, you're harassing them.
Yes.
You're out of your mind.
Someone tells you leave them alone. Leave them the fuck alone. Otherwise, yes, this does become a clear case of harassment.
It's shocking to me that so many people are stupid. Well, it's not, but again,
willfully
it's so
blind.
Obvious what's happening here.
Willfully blind and just generally retarded. So arse-blasted with left-wing and globalist propaganda that they cannot see reality for what it is. They would rather crawl over broken glass than ever admit that their worldview is somehow flawed or incorrect.
That's what will happen. Because again,
don't believe your lying eyes, guys.
Europeans have trouble believing it, but the British Parliament is completely sovereign. We can do with it what we want, and we just have to have the will to make it do the things we actually need it to do. But anyway, so you, of course, are aware that the Restore Britain rape gang inquiry is underway, and my goodness, already They haven't even released like any major findings yet, but already that Charlie's involved with it. And he says, "We don't know the true scale of these atrocities, but this new data, you can be sure there's only 1 or 2 degrees of separation from you to someone directly affected."
Rape gangs operate or have operated in at least 85 local authorities across Britain. That is 85 too many. But even worse, some lefties saying it isn't migrants doing all the crimes, just the native population. Now, that's just straight up lying. That is straight up lying at that point.
85 local authorities across Britain have Islamic rape gangs.
And in a way, it's also obfuscation. Because they're also, on one level, they're also trying to make the claim that migrants are the native population. They're trying to make the claim that, oh, these are just undocumented British. Sort of like how so many people in the media no longer refer to illegals as illegal aliens, but undocumented Americans. Like making the claim that somehow they're American citizens, they just don't have the documentation for it. No, they're fucking illegal aliens. They don't need to be here. They need to fucking go back to wherever the fuck they came from. The same thing with these fucking migrants over in Britain. They're not the native population. They never have been. They never will be. They're not like us. They never will be one of us. They have to go back. You're trying to use soft language because they're sensitive weasels. Well, I don't know if they're sensitive, but they're definitely weasels. The lot of them.
And of course, Elon here, the Quisling collaborators should be charged with aiding, rape, and in some cases murder.
Finally, someone gets it.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah. The people responsible for this in government need to be charged with aiding rape. And they also need to be charged with murder. And they need to go to prison. And even then, that's too soft of a punishment for them. They need to face the hangman's noose. Britain needs to bring back the death penalty and execute these people. To send 2 messages. 1, we're not fucking around anymore. And 2, this is never going to fucking happen ever again.
Whenever the opposite side gets in power, they need to figure out everybody who facilitated this and put them all in jail pretty much forever.
No, just execute them. Just find them and execute them. Hangman's noose, bullet to the head. I don't really give a fuck which at this point.
That's what I would do if I was them. Because this is the problem, is that people do this and then they're just going to get away with it, basically.
Yeah. And then they'll do it again. And they will bring up an entire generation of other people to keep doing it again and again and again. Spare the wood, use a wood chipper.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen, is that you need to have long-term consequences for the people that enabled this.
Yes, they need to be made to suffer.
Spent a long time in prison. They absolutely should. And that would be a lot of Labour Party councillors and MPs who would go to jail for a long time if we lived in a country that actually valued the sanctity of our children.
Yeah, no. In proper Britain, the Labour Party would be forcibly broken up and liquidated. And the people within Labour, and even in the Tories, that are responsible for this, would face prison and execution. If nothing else, to send a message that we're not going to tolerate this anymore. This is never going to fucking happen ever again.
I mean, the Conservatives could have done this at any point, right? The Conservatives could be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, they could, but they didn't, because they controlled opposition. Just like so many of the Republicans in the United States. It's a lesson that so many people never seem to fucking learn. Don't give these people power. They don't know what to do with it anyway. If you do not take and exercise power, your enemies will, and they will use it to destroy you. Take power, exercise it, and use it to crush your enemies first. Because otherwise they will come for you.
Labour councillors, actually, and all these Labour-run police, are they all involved with the grooming gangs? Oh, they are?
Yep.
Oh,
yes,
well, you guys
they
are in
are.
trouble, because we're sending you to jail forever, is what they could have done. But no, it takes the independent movement, Restore Britain, hopefully funded by Elon.
Well, eventually there will be enough people that get fed up that there will be a governmental change. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, the only question is that when that...
They will either... The people responsible for this will either willingly go into a prison cell, or they will be dragged in there by a mob. And even then, the mob may be angry enough that it's like, no, prison's too good for you. No, we're just going to kill you. That is a sort of violent, dark future that Britain is facing now, because they refused to do what must be done, because they were afraid of being called racist. They were afraid of being called naughty names, or for high dive into a low well. Yeah? They had every opportunity to do something about this, and they didn't. So you know what? You get what you fucking deserve.
Governmental change happens, will those people exercise restraint whenever they are in control? In my opinion, I don't think they should.
No.
I think these are...
Why should they? Why should they? The leftists and globalists have certainly shown no sense of restraint. If they had any sort of restraint, they would have stopped all this, or they would have tried to clamp down on it. There is no restraint shown on the other side, so why the hell should we show any restraint to them? Show no quarter. They're not going to show us any quarter. They're not showing us any quarter now. They're trying to censor the internet over there. They're trying to jail people for raising the St. George's flag. They're putting young girls in jail, arresting them for defending themselves against a bunch of puckies and gypsy nonces. Why should we show them any quarter? They've never shown it to us, so we don't show it to them. You get what you fucking deserve.
People that have been complicit and have aided and abetted the rape, sexual assault, murder, and violence against their own people. And really, like, if you're making that decision and you're doing that, then you deserve whatever happens. It'll be justified? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you get what you fucking deserve.
I mean, and again, yeah, not for restraint doesn't solve the problem. Exactly. Like, yeah, there's absolutely not. Like, yeah, it's not even a question. I'm not saying you should kill them, right? I mean, like, it's up to them to decide what they should do. But, like, I mean, if it was up to me, I would at least put them in jail.
I mean, it's going to get to that point where it's like jail is too good of a sentence for them. Prison is too lenient for them. It is going to get to the point. And again, I don't endorse violence for obvious legal reasons, but it is going to get to that point where people will crave bloodshed. This is going to get a lot more violent and a lot more bloody, because the other side has absolutely zero interest. They absolutely cannot be asked to do anything about this.
Like, indefinitely.
Musk to actually get any motion on this. But like I said, we're going to get a hard right government at some point. And I tell you, when it comes, the whiplash is going to be brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Dixon is correct to frame it as the greatest atrocity in our history. And it really is. It's genuinely hard to think of anything worse that has happened to the British people. And mostly it's in England, but you can see it's in other areas as well. Scotland and Wales, Northern Ireland, you can see. And like I said, this is just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Somewhere from beyond the grave, Oswald Mosley is just looking down on all of this and just saying, "Told you so."
But it's always the same profile. It's always the same people. Yep. And apparently it was going on since the 1950s, they have found. So the moment that they got here,
Jesus,
they started doing it. Now,
who
one might
guessed?
ask, well, what are things like in Pakistan for young women and girls? Well, who knows? Anyway, Elon said that he would like to...
Oh, we know. We know what it's like. We know what it's like. We know.
Help fund the legal actions against corrupt officials who aid and abet.
This is a massive, huge Elon W.
Yeah, it really is. And there's right there the label for all of this. The rape of Britain. That's what we can call this whole thing. The rape of Britain. I think that's a very apt term for the whole thing. If we were to tie it all up in a bow and put a label on it, it would be called the rape of Britain, because that's what happened. That's what's happened. If sanity is somehow restored, if proper Britain is ever restored, historians will look back on this period of history from the 1950s up to today, and that's exactly what they'll call this period, the rape of Britain. I can think of no other apt description of this sort of post-war managed decline, because it's more than just managed decline. It is the rape of Britain. The pillaging, plundering, and raping of a once great nation and a once majestic empire. And clear-thinking historians will write about it with sadness and fury, just wondering, how the hell could we let this happen? all because they wanted an easy-to-import serf class, and it backfired horribly. It's backfired horribly throughout history. You go back to the Roman Empire, they tried to do the same thing, and that blew up in their faces. And ultimately, it destroyed the Roman Empire from within. And now that's what we're seeing here with Britain. They wanted a compliant underclass. Well, they got the underclass, but it wasn't so compliant. It's backfired horribly. To where now you have this subculture of savages and nonces that are terrorizing the native population. That subset doesn't belong in Britain. They have to go back.
I would like to help fund legal actions against corrupt officials who aided and abetted the rape of Britain per the official government inquiry. Please reply below for consideration. Again, they need to get control of the government. As soon as they get control of the government, they can do this for free. But that's what needs to happen first. As soon as that happens, this stuff stops immediately.
As per the official government inquiry, please reply below for consideration. The thing is, this isn't an official government inquiry.
You can't go to court against officials. You need money. This is massive. Why would you think that? Do you really think that whenever the far right government that will obviously supersede what's here, do you really think that they're going to care about court proceedings?
No, they're not. At that point, it's just all going to be a show. It's just all going to be something to give an air of legitimacy, but it's all just going to be a dog and pony show. It's just going to be a show for the media, but they know what verdict they've already arrived at. And so it will all just be kabuki theater, a prelude to an execution. And honestly, nobody's really going to care. They're just going to, at that point, just say, jail them, execute them, the lot of them. It'd be kind of funny if the government got sued into oblivion. I mean, 4chan is already leading the front on that end. Yeah, I think with 4chan, the best you can hope is for a stalemate. But ultimately, my feeling is that the American courts are going to side with 4chan because it just would be a cold day in hell before they let a foreign government exercise that much control over an American corporation. It's just, there's so many things stacked against the British government in the American courts that they're not gonna hand the British government that win. Not easily, anyway. It would take some fairly sophisticated and high-level corruption for the UK government to score a win against 4chan. And even then, it would get appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court before finally they would go with settled case law, probably saying something to the effect of, yeah, British government, you don't have any standing here. Really dodged a bullet with Trump getting elected because all that crap would have come over here. Yeah, probably. It would have accelerated. It really would. We would be in very dark times. But that's also not to say that we may still be facing some uniquely dark times in the future. Trump slowed some things down, but he hasn't stopped it. The fight still goes on.
You really think that's what's going to happen? Like, yeah, they're just going to change the rules. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Heads we win, tails you lose.
The Labour Party did say they were going to hold an official government inquiry, but of course, was that crickets? Yes, we've heard nothing on it. Absolutely nothing. Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain are the only people actually doing anything about this. I mean, Nigel Farage said he was going to do one. Where's that? What happened to that? Again, it's disappeared crazy. Into the ether because...
it's all talk because ultimately Nigel is all talk. Do not put your hopes in Reform or Nigel. Don't make the mistake that I did and think that, there's going to be some sort of sea change with Reform. It's not going to happen. Reform is really just the Tories light, a slightly more right-leaning Tory party. Right now, the only people that seem to be standing up for the genuine interest of the people in Britain are Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain. Everyone saw how that went, yeah. There really is no one that Nigel won't throw under the bus in order to protect his own interests. And really, that's all he sees Reform as, is just his little fiefdom. Really, Nigel and Rupert are two very similar individuals in that they both have ended up being very successful people. Both of them are millionaires. Rupert Lowe is a successful businessman who, I believe he made his fortune owning a football club and managed that very well, and then eventually ran for MP for Great Yarmouth and but yeah, had a long history in business and was going to retire, but he decided to spend his retirement years serving the people of Great Yarmouth. Nigel has always... He has a similar background in business, but also in politics. And he too has made a lot of money. I mean, I believe his contract for his television show at GB News, he makes about £1 million a year. On top of that, he's got income from Cameo, which I think is another somewhere between an extra £20,000 to £40,000 a year. Plus, whatever else he makes in terms of income from speaking fees, from, personal appearances, who knows what else. But, safe to say, both men are not wanting for money. Both men have done very well for themselves. It's just what they've chosen to do with the resources that they have. Nigel has chosen to live a life of luxury and comfort, and has just sort of put the interest of Britain and of its people in sort of second or third column, if it even comes into consideration at all. Rupert is actually... He's a bloke that actually talks to the people, stays in touch with his constituencies, and tries to deliver. He listens to them. It's like, what do you need? What do you want? And works damn hard to deliver. And one of the things that people wanted was an inquiry into the rape gangs. And so Rupert has put up his own money and has fought hard for this. And now it's happening. Nigel would never do anything like this because it's seen as too politically risky for him. The fact that it has to go this far just to get an inquiry done. Yeah, everyone in government is having to be dragged kicking and screaming on this just to get muted responses. That's how sad and pathetic it all is.
Because really, it's not a big deal for them. Mm-hmm. But of course, you've got loads of people giving some great suggestions on how to help and things like that, which is wonderful.
Yeah, of course.
It would be great if Elon were to support these people.
That would be fantastic.
I think done.
Yeah, no, this is... It's a classic example of noblesse oblige, of one of the richest men in the world, Elon Musk, saying, you know what, I've got plenty of money, I'm doing all right, I'm going to take some of my resources and help fund something for the public good. Because I see people over here suffering, and I want to try and do something to alleviate or stop the suffering. So, yes, Asman is quite right. This is a huge W for Elon. And it would be wonderful to see Elon working closely with Rupert Lowe on this. The rape gang inquiry getting the funding that it needs to come up with something, anything.
That would be amazing.
That'd be
great. It would be like, thank God we've got someone somewhere who cares, right? Because really that's what this is all about. It's just a lack of giving a damn about what has happened to the children.
Oh my goodness, we have a raid. Metal Angel Gali, welcome in. How was your stream? Let us find out what you were up to, my dear. What were you playing? What were you doing? How was your stream? Aha! Warhammer 40k. Rogue Trader. Oh, that sounds interesting. Lately, I've been kind of wanting to get into the Warhammer games. Especially wanted to try out Bolt Gun. But Rogue Trader, that sounds interesting. It was quite the reading simulator. Perfect for those of us who do reading ASMR, I suppose. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the additional shout out there. Mods, thank you. So much reading, so much lore. I mean, would we expect anything less from Warhammer 40k? Would we expect anything less? I think not. Thank you for the shout out. Of course. Everyone, please go follow Metal Angel Gaddy. Lol, absolutely not. Warhammer 40k is dense reading, however, I have a shortcut for you. What, you just plug it into Grok or ChatGPT and just say, here, give me the TLDR. Oh no, Memento, let me grab you the link for TTS. Yeah, there's an idea. Just have TTS do it for you. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna need a whole pitcher of tea with honey and lemon. Because yeah, that's the TLDR would still be 300 hours long. Oh goodness. Oh my. Yes. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. Well, anyways, Raiders, welcome in. If it's your first time here, I'm Lord Rexworth. I'm an English nobleman VTuber. I'm also a bit of a shitposter on the internet. And yeah, we're watching an Asmongold video, and it's talking about some pretty heavy stuff. Just full disclosure on this, we are talking about some serious topics that's going on in British politics right now regarding the rape gang inquiry, the issue in Dundee, Scotland, with the young girl who was brandishing a sword and an axe to fend off a potential sex trafficker and just general ne'er do well. And just the talk of mass deportations now being on the table in Britain. So not just the TTS version of the Alpha Booster made. Oh well, there you have it. Anyways, pretty serious stuff. So just full disclosure on that. We don't shy away from serious topics that are happening in the world these days. And yeah, reacting to a bit of Asmongold and a bit of Saga Nabakad here. So yeah, watched that earlier. However, it's late for me. I need to raid and run. Have a great rest of your stream. Totally fine. Totally understand. Have a good rest, Metal Angel Galley. Thank you so much for the raid. And yeah, raiders, if you need to, please feel free to get up and stretch. Grab something to eat, something to drink. I'm going to be taking a short break here as soon as we get done with this one. And yeah, we'll be looking at. I think after this we'll be moving on to some gameplay, because I've got Metal Gear Solid Delta lined up here, and I want to give that a go. At least try to get through the Virtuous mission
of this country.
Well, it's the adherence to the party philosophy and ideology over the best interests of people. I think that's really the big problem here. That's where the problem's really coming from more than anything.
But again, you can feel the momentum rising. You can feel the pressure building.
I mean, that is the one good thing, is that we are beginning to see a momentum, and we are beginning to see a bit of an uprising amongst the people. They have had enough. They have had enough, and yeah, it's refreshing to see. And who knows, maybe the one thing that comes out of this silver lining is that Britain begins to look beyond those sort of old-fashioned notions of class and, stop saying that, oh, well, because they're working class or they're in a rough neighborhood in Dundee, Scotland or someplace, they don't count or they deserve their fate or something like that. I think that's the one thing that really does need to go away. Because nobody deserves to live like that. And I mean, it's easy to say, just imagine if that were, the children of an MP in Parliament, or, a wealthy merchant banker in London, or, a family member of someone who's a member of the House of Lords, or even, one of the royals. But realistically, things like that wouldn't happen to them, because so many of them lived in walled-off enclaves and in fancy neighborhoods with lots of security and police protection, to where that sort of thing doesn't happen until it does. And who knows, maybe the most tragic thing of all is that might be what it takes, is for things to get so bad that, if it can happen to the upper crust of society, it really can happen to anyone. But I should hope that sort of class distinction begins to get a bit more blurry and begins to go away after a while, because no one, regardless of their class or their station in society, deserves to live in fear to where they have to go carrying around an axe and a sword to protect themselves against an invasionary force.
Something that they're going to be able to sweep under the rug. Too many people were hurt. Too many lives have been ruined. Too much has happened. And this is what the flagging campaign is about. It is this overall sense of sovereignty of the British people, in particular the English people, over their own country. We have been abused and taken advantage of for far too long. And you can feel the time is coming that this is not going to go on forever.
Right?
This
I mean, that
is
was a pretty
definitely
big
coming
one.
to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was also something that was really long and hard fought because people voted for Brexit and then it was tied up in the courts for years. And they even had to have a second referendum on it to where people had to go out and vote once again, yes, we want Brexit. And it took, I don't know how many successive governments and successive prime ministers before we finally got Brexit in some form or fashion. I think it was finally when Theresa May got into number 10 before everything finally got rolled out and we finally got Brexit and we finally got out of the EU. I think so. I mean, I could be wrong. Again, that was years ago. So what's happened since then? Kettins and gated communities would eventually have to deal with it, and it seems like it's only then they'll finally realise that mass importing pests is a bad idea. It might, but even then, requires them to still swallow their pride and admit that they made a mistake. And that's the thing that a lot of us have come to learn about women, is that they are a prideful lot, and they will tie themselves into pretzel-like knots to avoid taking responsibility for their actions and for their luxury beliefs.
And Elon, of course, has spotted that Nigel Farage is, once again, behind the times. Now, Nigel came out and said that he was going to deport 600,000 illegal immigrants in his first year.
Not enough. Those are rookie numbers, Nigel. You've got to get those numbers up.
Why so low? Why not more?
Yeah, exactly.
Those are rookie.
See, this is
those are rookie numbers.
I said this shit was going to happen. Absolutely. Yeah, they want all of them gone. That's really where it's at.
We know that there are at least going to be about 2 million legal immigrants in the country, but there are going to be, and the rest, you know, what about all of those other ones? Why not?
Yeah, that's just 2 million that you know about. There could be so many more. I think even that's underestimating.
Deport them all. Like, go through the communities with, like, deportation squads. Let me see your paper. Are you illegal? You're illegal. Right, get out. Because these communities...
Seems like it's a pretty simple idea. I don't know why anybody would be against this.
Are an anchor to the illegals. So the first thing you do is stop benefits, stop housing benefits, stop access to the NHS, and then you just go through these communities and start making sure the people who are here legally, then you deport them. Then you denaturalize the Boris wave and deport them too. And the combined efforts of manually removing them, the illegals, and just turning off the benefits will just encourage millions of them to just leave. They'll just go. Because they'll realise, oh no, wait, the British state isn't just going to pour gold into my pockets and punish the people who object to this now. They're actually now, I'm on the outside now, and the British state is working for the British people, so actually I'm just going to leave. And this would be such an easy series of wins for Nigel. But of course, Elon's got his number. Unfortunately, the reality is that Farage will do almost nothing to protect Britain. That is obvious. He called it back in January, or whenever it was, I think it was back in January, when he said Farage isn't the guy, and he's right. Existing law is clear that anyone...
I think when Elon was in the American government at the time helping with Doge, I think at one point, I could be wrong about this, but I think Elon actually has met Nigel Farage. And I could swear this was something he said. He left that meeting not impressed. Trump seems to like him, well enough, but yeah. Now, Elon is exactly right here that Farage, he's not going to do what it takes to protect Britain. Nigel is there to look out for the interest of Nigel. If those happen to intersect with the best interest of Britain, then maybe he'll do it, but most of the time, Nigel is in it for Nigel. He doesn't care about anything else. Nigel really is, in the greatest sense of the word, a grifter.
No, he's not extreme enough. I think Nigel Farage was really good as a mover for starting this maybe like 10 years ago. But I think that since then, the politics and the situation.
He's also been a bit of a saboteur that has been responsible for delaying a lot of things that needed to get done.
Situation has gotten more dire, and people want someone who's more extreme and more hardline stance on what the issue is.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where only the hardliners would be left standing, because they're the only ones that have the courage to take the hardline stance and have the will to actually fucking do something about it. That's what it's come to.
He's not a leader. Well, I think that I think he played a great role in, Brexit, and he played a great role in, I think, trying to normalize what's happening now, but I don't think he's going to be the one to take it across the finish line. And I think that's pretty obvious.
If anything, if it becomes advantageous for him to throw a spanner into the works, that is exactly what Nigel will do to sabotage things. To give himself the advantageous position to come in and look like the hero who at least appears to be fixing things, even though he actually does fuck all.
I don't think that's necessarily shitting on Nigel Farage. I think that, people can respect the fact that, he's done a lot of things to lay the groundwork for the conversations that are happening now. But at this point, I think people need someone who's a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, they need Rupert.
That's what
I go back to this. Rupert's our man. If anyone needs to be the next Prime Minister of Britain, it's Rupert Lowe. Even though he is effectively a man without a party, they could very well restore Britain into a political party. I don't know if they would be able to raise enough candidates and win enough elections in the 4 years that we have left before the current Labour government has to stand down and hold elections. But if anyone needs to be, if there's one person that Britain needs as its next premier, as its next prime minister, Rupert's our man. Correction, a good king. I mean, yeah, there's a thought. Lord knows King Charles is not going to... He's not going to do a bloody thing about any of this. He's certainly not going to go to Keir Starmer and say, yeah, I'm dissolving Parliament. We're holding new elections. You've fucked this up too badly. He's not going to do that. The House of Windsor has almost always been friendly and sympathetic to the Labour Party. About the only Tory politician that his mother had any sort of affection for was Winston Churchill. I think to a certain extent Anthony Eden. But she was reputed to have a more friendly working relationship with Labour prime ministers like Harold Wilson than anyone else. And she certainly did not get on well with Margaret Thatcher, even though for a time Thatcher was one of the best things that could have happened to Britain. She honestly had affinity for the weak men like Harold Wilson and John Major, who created a lot of the hard times that Britain had to go through. I wish it were that simple as to install Rupert Lowe as king. He'd be good at it, but it would also be a major restriction on his power. He could get a lot more done at number 10 and in Parliament than he could at Windsor Castle. Because ultimately, Britain's sovereign, yes, they may be the head of state, yes, they may be the head of the Church of England, but when it comes to real political power, they are, for the most part, a figurehead. Prime ministers meet with him on an almost weekly basis as more of a sort of social nicety. They don't really, the only thing they have is the big red button to say, I'm dissolving Parliament and we're holding new elections. Really would have assumed that as king they would have all the authority required. No. That all the authority required, especially in situations like what Britain is facing now, would require an absolute monarchy. Much of the real power exists within Parliament, and especially within the House of Commons, and even more so in Whitehall in the civil service. I'm sure some of you have seen the British comedies Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister, and that is, honestly, it's probably one of the best primers on British politics and on political science with a focus on the United Kingdom, because it really gives you an insight into the sort of mindset and philosophy of ministers and also what goes on in various cabinet positions, but also within the civil service, and how they view their role and function in the British democratic system. That sort of arrogant, conniving worldview of Sir Humphrey Appleby, yeah, there's a lot of that. And it also is one of the reasons why so many governments go in with these lofty goals and end up being just absolutely neutered and house-trained. And it's because they go up against the Sir Humphrey Applebys of the civil service and they get housebroken. I mean, we saw it one too many times with what happened with Boris Johnson and with the successions of various Tory governments and prime ministers. And even then, so much of power has been handed over to the civil service and to these various things like, the quangos and whatnot, that it just, it's a mess right now. But circling back to what you were asking about, Action, all the authority required would require them to be an absolute monarch to get anything done. A mess is an understatement, indeed.
Aggravated rape or murder, especially of children, is guilty of a serious crime and must serve time either in prison if a citizen or be deported if not. The government simply needs to enforce the law. Now, of course, a Labour government would never enforce this law because there'd be their people they'd be sending to jail or deporting.
What a surprise.
But a different government could easily do it, and Nigel Farage could...
What a shocker. One of the biggest constituencies for Labour are the nonces.
Easily commit to this. He could easily commit to doing this to the Labour Party.
Yeah, he's not going to be the guy.
Rupert's there. No, he doesn't have what it takes. Ben Habib, no, he doesn't have what it takes. Again, Advance is...
well, he's not answering... He's not giving solutions that are relevant to the people that live there, right? How about Conor McGregor running for president of Ireland? I mean, I have no idea about that. I just don't know about it.
He can try, but Ireland is in a very similar and sorry state as Britain, probably even worse. Which is sad, because they've historically been a subjugated nation, even under the British Empire. They fought so hard for independence from Britain. They got it, and then they immediately handed it over for a different type of slavery under the European Union. And yes, perhaps life is a bit better under the EU compared to what it was a generation or two ago. But that has come with a great cost of sovereignty, because they are dealing with the same sort of migrant issues that so many other European countries are dealing. And no one knows why. Oh, we all know why. We all know why. They've got the same issue with migrants, with unchecked immigration, with slavery and servitude to the European Union. And they've also got their own sort of populist uprisings, which are being met with police force. And I mean, Conor McGregor, I think he would make a fine premier of the Republic of Ireland. I think he'd make a fine president, because he certainly seems to have the interests and the desires of the people first and foremost on his mind. At least that's the way it seems. I could be wrong. But genuine populist candidates like that don't really take power without first facing massive resistance from the system. And we are talking about a system that absolutely will try to destroy their opponents with lawfare and with any other dirty, underhanded trick they can think of, even up to and including assassinations and putting their opponents in jail. And yes, as you mentioned, Action, assuming it doesn't get cheated out as win, they could just void the election and just claim, Russian interference, this one doesn't count, do it again. And oh, by the way, you got to take Conor McGregor off the ballot because we've deemed him a Russian agent because reasons. So, you get the choices that we select, not what you want. I would not put it past any of these people currently in power. I believe they would try every single one of those things. And yes, I do believe they would try to jail and possibly even assassinate Conor McGregor or any other populist candidate that comes up, because they will not brook any form of threat to their power. They just won't. There is nothing they won't do to protect their own interests and their own power, including jailing and assassinating their opponents. More and more agreeing with the aristocratic utensil about a monarchy being the superior government law. Yeah, I tend to agree as well. I think that this whole democratic experiment has turned out to be a massive failure, and a monarchy seems to be more of a representative of the interest and the will of the people. But even then, it takes the right sort of monarch to be a leader of a people and of a nation. I don't think Charles and the House of Windsor have what it takes anymore. Might possibly get that with William and Catherine when the time comes, but I am of the mindset that Charles III is not it, because what is a king but a servant to his people? Precisely. There's more of the people than there are of the monarchs, so you best keep them happy. And at least with something more resembling an absolute monarchy, you tend to cut through a lot of that red tape and just get shit done. And that, more than anything, is what people want, is leaders who get shit done. We're tired of inaction. We're tired of inertia. We've had it. We've had enough. We want people who get shit done. And if that takes an absolute monarchy, so be it. I think the only thing that aristocratic utensil is a very interesting fellow. In so many ways, he's quite right. He's a prophet in his own time, but he suffers the same curses that most prophets suffer in their own time, of people who just refuse to listen, people who refuse to believe, and very often people who persecute the prophets. And when I speak of prophets, I'm talking like biblical prophets. Most of the prophets that you read in, say, the Old Testament of the Bible, many of those men did not meet a peaceful fate. Many of those men did not live to ripe old age and pass away peacefully in their sleep. Many of them were, in fact, violently persecuted, tortured, and executed by angry mobs of people who did not want to listen to the hard truths that they were talking about. And so they met very violent, ignoble, ignominious ends, even though history turned out to be their vindicator. They turned out to be right. They were just ahead of schedule. I was going to say, like biblical prophets or the Nostradamus type of prophet. Yeah, like a biblical prophet. Biblical prophets, they were right, but they were ahead of schedule. And so but what they were saying at the time were a lot of uncomfortable truths. What they prophesied for the future were things that people did not want to hear about, even though they turned out to be right. And back then the people did not want to hear about this, so much so that they violently persecuted and even murdered these prophets, or drove them out of their lands, and they died alone in an exile. It's rather tragic, and it's why I think it was Mencius Mollberg who once said, do not expect to be a modern day prophet and to, I'm paraphrasing, and to receive accolades and the support and the love and the adoration of the people, because that's not how any of this works. You will be persecuted for telling the truth. You will have to endure certain negative consequences for being a truth teller. And yet someone has to do it. Someone has to be the truth teller. Someone has to say what needs to be said. Because if not us, who? If not now, when? Yeah, someone has to do the job. It's why you have seen such a shift in my content to talking about the sort of things and reacting to the sort of things that we've been reacting to tonight. I felt in my heart that these were things worth talking about. These were conversations that were worth having, even though, yes, in the short term I have paid a price for it. I have been kicked out, well, both kicked out and voluntarily left a Vtuber group. Better off without them anyways. They ended up falling apart after I left. That happened with me not just once, but twice. It's to the point where it's like I don't want to join any VTuber group, and I almost just want to tell people, if you're thinking about inviting me into a VTuber group, don't. It won't survive me. It was either hide or speak the truth, yeah. And I couldn't hide. I just couldn't do it. My soul could not remain intact. I had to speak the truth. And I have paid the price for it. Like I said, I've had to leave a VTuber group that I was in. I've had people unfollow me. I've had people talk shit both publicly and in private behind my back because they did not like some of the things that I was saying, including, I'll go ahead and say it, my ex-girlfriend. She actively tried to sabotage a collab that I had set up with someone. And that person came to me and said, "Do you know this person? Why are they reaching out to me and saying these sorts of things?" To which I said, "That's my ex-girlfriend, and I'm both shocked but not surprised that they would do and say these sorts of things." I've had people try to cancel me on Twitter for the things that I'm saying. And for the things that I tweet. I'm still here. I'm still saying what needs to be said. I'm not going anywhere. Still kicking and still going, exactly. Because I saw, originally with election night coverage, that there was an audience for this sort of thing. And it's something that I'm passionate about. And so I keep doing it. Even though I've got people trying to cancel me on social media. I've got people who talk shit about me in public and in private. And they know who they are. And what's more, I know who they are. And believe me, if an opportunity comes up, they will get called out on it. And if I have to publicly humiliate them over it, I will. But I hope that they've got enough good sense to back down and leave me alone and not talk shit about me. And yes, there are even people who out and out make up lies about me, who literally make up shit that did not happen and claim it as the truth. And I've seen what people said. I've seen what these people have talked about publicly. The lies that they've spread, the misinformation. I've seen it all. This stuff does not escape my view. I'm sure there will be more of it as time goes on and as I grow. And what really gets me is that, I've been nothing but kind to a lot of these people who publicly and even privately talk shit about me. I've been nothing but nice to them. And yet they see that as a chance for them to get a little crumb of clout by throwing me under the bus. And I don't know, I guess it doesn't factor into their thinking that I won't see that and that I won't at some point call them out on it. It's like, did you really expect me not to call you out on that? Did you really expect me to just, let you get away with that? Did you think that you would not face any sort of pushback or clapback on that? I mean, if you did, you're deluding yourself. But it's like, I've done nothing to you. I just happened to say something that you disagree with, and now all of a sudden you're going out of your way to, make me out to be some sort of monster? Because I have an opinion that you disagree with? How fucking childish can you get? It's like something out of ice. It really is. And it is incredible how many VTubers in this space have that sort of immature high school mentality. Fuck's sake, people. You are supposed to be grown-ass adults. Can you please, for fucking once, act like it? And realize that, yes, there are people in this world who are going to say things that you disagree with and you may not like. That's part of life. Get over it. Either get over it or get out of it. Also, congrats again on hitting that 750 mark. Thank you. Trying now to get to 775. That's the new goal. But yeah, I completely missed it while I was away. I was like, oh yeah, we hit 750. We should point that out and, celebrate the dub. Definitely be an audience catcher when Asmongold goes on hiatus for his dad. Yeah, I really hope and pray for the very best for his dad. I know that is really going to be rough on Asmon, having to deal with that. It is never easy to watch a parent have to go through that, because it hurts you just as much. I know when my dad, especially the first time he had cancer, it was a traumatic experience at first, but it was also a time where we really had to come together as a family. And we also, in a sense, learned who in the family truly cared about us and who couldn't care less. And unfortunately, we found out the hard way that my half-brothers from my father's previous marriages, they unfortunately couldn't care less and could not even be bothered to come visit their own father in hospital. When people act in such a selfish way, they don't seem to realize that that has a knock-on effect with other members of the family who see that, and it hurts them just as much. These are supposed to be my brothers, and they somehow can't carve out a weekend to come see their father as he's fighting for his life in hospital. It's at that point you kind of look at them a bit less like brothers and family, and it's just sort of, okay, we have blood ties, but you certainly don't act like family to me. But I've had to find that out the hard way with a lot of family, on both my mum and my dad's side. You find out in certain pivotal moments, severe illness, a death in the family. It really is sort of a moment of demarcation where you find out who really is family and who just happens to share your DNA. And a lot of so-called family just happens to share DNA. Real family has become a very rare and limited quantity. The difference between family and a kidney blood donor, yeah. Which, my parents are not perfect people. The Earl and Countess of Rexworth are far from the most perfect people. They are still my parents, and I would do absolutely anything for them. And there isn't a day that goes by that I am not concerned about what exactly I'm going to do to take care of them in their elder years. My father is getting up to an advanced age where we have to start thinking about the rather morbid possibility of what life will be like without him, and how exactly I'm going to take care of my mother, who is also not a young woman, and has her own share of health problems. These are not easy things to think about. These are things that if I had a choice, I would not think about them at all. But these are the things that you have to start thinking about as a responsible adult and as a good son. It is that inevitability, got to face it somehow, yes. And I don't really have answers for what I'm going to do to take care of my mother if, God forbid, my father passes, or even vice versa. And that's a rather frightening thought in and of itself, that I have no idea. Ultimately, I can only do what I can do, and that's going to have to be enough. And I have to try as best I can to take some sort of comfort in that. And there are some days when that thought provides zero comfort whatsoever, yet I still press on. And speaking of press on, we got terribly off track. Let's wrap up the video, yeah?
Habib's party, go and join it. It's the best we've got. So go and help him out. Go join it. Why not? What harm can it do if we have somewhere politically that we can go to?
Yeah, I mean, that's another possibility, is advance UK. Advance UK and restore Britain. Right now, they may very well be Britain's only hope.
But again, like, this is all things whose time are coming. And you can see how Farage, a year ago, he was saying, Stephen Edgington, oh no, mass deportation is not feasible. I don't want my name attached to mass deportations. It's not my ambition. To now, I will mass deport 600,000 of them. Blah, blah, blah. It's
not enough. Not enough.
Yeah,
those are rookie
enough.
Numbers.
Oh, really? Why is
get
that?
those numbers
Because
up.
the tide is turning. Right? The pressure is building. They can't just call you a racist. They can't just diffuse this. Things are way too far gone.
Yeah, it like in a previous video that Hasman did a while back, calling someone a racist is no longer has the brand power, the cachet that it once had. It is to the point where a lot of people are saying, whenever they're called a racist, you know, somebody says, "You're a racist." Yes, all right, I'm a racist. So what? Well, that's bad for you.
Gone for that, and so things are slowly but surely changing.
I think that what he's saying here is completely accurate. And I think also, like, again, the type of, like, kind of, I think people call it controlled opposition. I wouldn't call it controlled opposition, but that's what a lot of people are calling it in terms of, Nigel Farage and the other people like that. I think that really people want dramatic, drastic, extreme action taken. It's very evident that that's the case, at least from what my read on the situation is. I could be wrong, and of course some people don't agree with me, but I think that there are enough people that agree with me that this is a sentiment that will win an election. Basically, right? 100% control of the opposition. Yeah, exactly, sure, right? And so, yeah, it's 600,000 over 5 years, rookie numbers. Yeah, there's probably going to be more that are going to come in that period of time. So I don't really see how that's going to solve any problems for anybody. So, yeah, people want justice. Well, I think that people really I think that they want justice. And also, this might not be something people want to hear, but they also want revenge. They do. They want revenge, and they want a degree of payback for what happened that, all of this, like, they've been suppressed. They've been.
I'm looking at some of these other videos here. I tried to follow my passion for art, but now I'm 32 and unemployed. I mean, she's smashable enough she could probably do OnlyFans and end up doing all right. Anyway.
Been pushed down. They've not been able to speak out, give their opinions on things. And I think they absolutely want revenge, like against the politicians. Well, I definitely, I mean, again.
Only 22, no, 32. Still, not bad looking for 32, but, Then again, I sort of have a thing for sexy goth girls. Particularly the big titty sexy goth mummies. I mean, what? Anyway.
Again, I don't support violence, any sort of political violence. I don't think that's a good idea. But again, I do think that it's something that's pretty fucking obvious that that's where things are going, right?
Anyway, there is... I'll go ahead and post this into chat. Everyone can go and give that a like. If you're not following Asmongold's channels, well, what the bloody hell are you doing? Are you living under a rock or something? Anyway.